This is CBC Vancouver News.
Everybody matters, my darlings.
Protests and counter-protesters clash in Coquitlam at a children's story time aimed at diversity and inclusion.
Lots of people have expressed concerns over the effect that explosions have on the behavior of the marine mammals.
Are killer whales bothered by this? The outcome of a multi-year military study and the future of weapons training off the Salish Sea.
And our parents brought it here and they showed it to us, and I'm happy to show it to the next generation as well.
Celebrating the harvest, BC's Tamil community gathers for the start of Pongal. Good evening, I'm Lien Yeung. Thanks for joining us. A children's book reading turned raucous today as scores of protesters and counter-protesters clashed. Coquitlam Library's Drag Queen Storytime is aimed at promoting inclusion and positivity, but some argue it's harmful to children. Our Yasmin Gandam was there.
The word love. Repeat after me. The word is love.
The unstoppable Connie Smudge, as she's known, walks through a crowd of supporters greeted with hugs and a whole lot of love. But she walks with police as demonstrators shout slurs at her and the crowd. Smudge says the protests have gotten worse in recent years due to the rise of social media. She just wants to read to a group of children at the library.
I couldn't hear the haters. I couldn't feel the haters. And all those children inside and all of their clever parents who want these kids to grow up exactly who they are, being their authentic selves and being loving and caring about each other. I wouldn't want to be involved with anything else.
A place she says has always felt safe to her.
They were a nice, comfy place that I could sort of read and find out about the world. And libraries are about belonging, and I never felt like I belonged.
Around 100 counter-protesters showed their support for inclusive spaces. Among them was Heather. She says despite the protesters, it is heartwarming to see all the supporters.
Making sure that love is louder than hate. This is just such a great boost for our community and the people here who are just wanting love to conquer over hate.
As for the story time, the children had fun with it.
I like what she was singing.
Yeah, you like the singing?
It was really cool to see a drag queen. Yeah, she was awesome.
With some picking up life lessons.
Like you can't, it's mean to make fun of people if they are different, but different is a good thing.
The library says the event is a good opportunity for families to learn about diversity and the LGBTQ+ community.
I think having a turnout of this side really shows that there is an appetite and a benefit to the community to hosting events that promote inclusion and diversity.
This is the second time they've held a drag story time and say it definitely won't be the last. Yasmin Gandam, CBC News, Coquitlam.
And a warning tonight from police to stay away from a man they say poses a risk to anyone connected to him. Williams Lake RCMP say Lashway Merritt is connected to criminal activity and a high level of violence. They say the 29-year-old was the victim of a shooting last year that they believe was gang-related. RCMP say anyone associated with Merritt may be putting themselves at risk. And BC's health minister is on the defense over the rising number of cancelled surgeries. Adrian Dick says the province is now catching up on postponed surgeries from the height of the pandemic. But he says a record number of surgeries were conducted between December 11th and December 17th.
In a time when many of you and many people were reporting the challenges of the healthcare system, we are completing more surgeries than in any week at any time in the history of the healthcare system in British Columbia.
However, the number of surgeries postponed still remains high. A total of 190 non-urgent scheduled surgeries were postponed in the first week of January. Gunfire as part of military training will ring out once again off the coast of Vancouver Island. The Canadian Armed Forces stopped for the past 3 years after concerns were raised about the impact of noise on marine life, including the endangered southern resident killer whale. A study has now found the effects in water are negligible, but as Janella Hamilton reports, experts say there's still more work to be done.
Surface gunnery is a noisy activity, and We add a gap in our knowledge with regards to noise and the possible interaction with the marine mammals in the area.
That's why the Canadian Armed Forces spent 3 years studying how noises from guns could affect animals who live around here. A roughly 30-kilometer stretch of the Salish Sea used for weapons training by both the Canadian and U.S. militaries. The area is home to many marine mammals like humpback whales, sea lions, sea otters, and the endangered southern resident killer whales.
Lots of people have expressed concerns over the effect that explosions have on the behavior of the marine mammals.
Moving forward, the CAF says all vessels and aircraft firing weapons in the area are required to comply with stringent mitigation procedures, measures that came out of the study led by environmental acoustic experts.
It looked at different calibers that we use in the area. It looked at essentially sound propagation both in the air and in the water.
There will be no firing if a marine mammal is within 250 meters of a vessel, and a longer observation period before firing to search for marine mammals. Experts say ensuring military activities are conducted at a safe distance is vital.
So for whales, because they're dependent on sound, as soon as that's impacted, suddenly it's as if they've just gone blind in a sense. They can no longer as well communicate with each other. It's hard for them to forage and find their food.
The Department of National Defense says the study found negligible impacts on marine mammals, including the southern resident killer whale.
It doesn't mean that there isn't a risk that an animal might not pop its head up in the wrong spot at the wrong time, but it is very clear that the military is very aware of the potential for them to cause harm.
The study's authors recommend more research into the effects of gun noise on marine life above or near the surface of the water, like birds and fish.
If the salmon react to the sound, unless they just suddenly disappear for the day, that will definitely have an impact on the southern resident orcas at that time.
The Canadian Armed Forces says more studies will be done looking at pollution from spent rounds and debris. Janella Hamilton, CBC News, Vancouver.
There is heated debate in the Kootenays over plans for a service dog monument. A veterans group in Kimberley wants to see their cherished animals recognized in the same park as the city's cenotaph. But City Council disagrees. They feel the park is for the people who gave their lives. Our Corey Bullock has more.
We want to put a statue of a dog in the park. What can that hurt?
Kimberley's Veteran Memorial Park is a place of remembrance. Every year, ceremonies are held to honor those who have made the ultimate sacrifice. But some members of Military Aims, Kimberley's veteran support group, are upset after an application to City Council for a service dog monument was denied. Twice.
We have bought our solid granite, beautiful monument. We have it sitting there waiting to be put in its place, and never dreamt that there would be opposition to that.
Military Aims spearheaded the design and building of the Memorial Park, which is located on city land. Postnikoff says the statue is meant to honor service dogs who help veterans and first responders with post-traumatic stress. Military Aims has covered the cost of the monument and its installation through donations. Public support for the project was also demonstrated through a petition with 3,000 signatures.
One of the reasons that service dogs are so relevant is that they're 24-hour support. When we come home, we're still fighting those wars. We can't just turn that off. And so these dogs serve those wars with us at home.
Kyle Dallum is a former Kimberley City Councillor. He served as a combat engineer with the Canadian Forces. Dallum says this tribute to service dogs is a way to modernize the cenotaph and support young veterans.
Veterans like myself, we're currently using service dogs to function better, be safer, not only to ourselves but to others.
Opposition from council focused on the feeling the Memorial Park is not an appropriate location.
I am for the message. It's the location. So if they bring another location to the floor, they have my support unequivocally.
Council hopes to work with Military Aims and find a suitable location, while the group says there's only one place where the statue belongs. Corey Bullock, CBC News, Cranbrook.
The Tamil community is celebrating the start of Thai Pongal, a multi-day festival to mark the beginning of harvest. Pongal means to boil over or overflow, and traditionally milk is used to make sweet rice that's boiled until it overflows to symbolize abundance. And today in Burnaby, members of the community gathered at a temple to do just that.
Today we're celebrating Pongal, which is the first day of the Tamil solar calendar. We celebrate by offering to the sun god and Mother Nature. We thank him for everything. He's the ultimate source who sustains all life on Earth. Traditionally, 3 fire pits are made from mud or clay pots and placed on the ground. That's how they start their Pongal, but here we have a silver vessel because we don't have clay pots here. And we offer sweet rice, which is Pongal, along with other fruits and flowers, just offering to him as a puja today. We begin by pouring water and milk, and we wait till it boils. And usually the time it boils and the sun coming out is around the same time. And the boiling would happen where the milk would boil towards the east, which is said to be good luck. And it starts the new harvest year. And so we're following the tradition here in Canada as well, bringing it from back home. As someone born and raised here, I am very happy that I'm part of my culture still, and our parents brought it here and they showed it to us, and I'm happy to show it to the next generation as well.
What is your favorite part of Pongal?
Eating the sweet Pongal and sharing it with the family. Yeah.
And for the past 20 years, a group of conservationists on the island have been tossing dead salmon into a creek. And for the first time, the public got to take part. Around 100 volunteers threw salmon carcasses into Saanach's Douglas Creek this morning. The tossing of salmon mimics nature by improving the health of the creek. It nourishes young salmon fry that will be brought to the stream from a nearby hatchery. Conservationists are hoping efforts like these will help bring back the dwindling salmon population.
We look at the stream and the park, actually, the whole park, as 50% environmental, 50% educational. And so this is both an environmental event to help salmon, but also educational to tell people about salmon, about the creek, and so forth.
Douglas Creek is home to chum and coho salmon, as well as cutthroat trout. Well, cross-country skiers are being warned about an angry great horned owl in the Kamloops area. The ornery owl is patrolling trails around Stake Lake. Since Wednesday, 4 people have received minor injuries after being attacked. One person had to go to hospital for a tetanus shot. The Overlander Ski Club is now recommending people ski in groups and to avoid a number of trails at night. WildSafe BC says the great horned owl may be nesting, and that's why it's swooping at people. Well, at 113 years of age, the person thought to be Canada's oldest has died. Shige Minishiba died on Friday in the Vancouver condo that she shared with her daughter. Her longevity was just one facet of a life that's seen incredible change personally and in the world. And as one doctor says, it's part of a growing trend. More people are living to triple-digit ages. Liam Britton has Minishiba's story.
In her 113 years, Shige Minishiba witnessed wars, technological and social change, and the lives of countless family members begin and end. Still living in Vancouver is her daughter, 82-year-old Kyoko.
She always believed in achievement. Achievement, if you try hard, you'll be number one.
Shige was born on a farm near Nagoya, Japan in 1909.
There was 8 different type of fruit tree in her farmyard. Orange, peach, oh yeah, anything.
She finished high school and worked, including in insurance. She married, and she and her husband adopted baby Kyoko. Kyoko moved to Toronto in the late 1960s. Shige and her husband joined her on the move to Canada. Shige and Kyoko then moved to Vancouver. For the last 20 years or so, they've lived in this Mount Pleasant condo. Shige died there Friday. The death certificate lists advanced age as the cause. A number of newspapers and online resources say that at the time of her death, Shige was Canada's oldest person. Now, there's no official body that confirms this, but still, 113 years is no small feat. How is it that some people live this long? Dr. Roger Wong is an expert on geriatric medicine. He says genetics are part of the answer, but long-lived people tend to exercise, eat well, and have plenty of social outlets.
Healthcare professionals, what we try to work towards is helping, supporting individuals in the community to live not only for longer, but leading meaningful lives. And I think that is the important piece.
Kyoko says for her mom, an attitude of appreciation was important.
And she always thanked me. Arigato. When the community nurse comes in, she goes, arigato, arigato, and then she goes, that's a prayer.
And don't forget a cup of matcha tea every morning, not too hot.
See, it's not bitter.
No. Liam Britton, CBC News, Vancouver.
After being hit by wave after wave of atmospheric rivers, another storm has moved into California, and another one is in the forecast. We'll take you to our crews on the ground when we return. Yet another storm has moved into California, once again with rain, snow, and strong winds. It's the first of two systems expected back-to-back this weekend. Our Susanna De Silva is there.
Where we are right now, they're getting a little bit of a break, but you can go a few minutes down the highway and you will run into torrential downpours that have been falling in and around the Sacramento area. Also high winds that have been leading to more trees coming down. You see this one over here. And this is a challenge for power companies. There have been thousands of employees trying to restore power. As quickly as they do, though, another storm hits and there are more outages. This is the Sacramento River here, which is running very, very high. It is the same story throughout the state. Creeks, rivers, everywhere you go, you see them running high. You see people out taking pictures because they are not used to seeing the waters running this high. And there is still a risk of flooding in a number of places, rivers that still may lead to flooding and break their banks. The rain that is falling now, of course, is on top of 2 weeks of storms, 8 atmospheric rivers so far. There are more in the forecast, and these new storms do not have to be very large to lead to more flooding, to lead to trees coming down because the ground is so saturated. In and around the Sacramento area, the majority of the 19 deaths that have happened because of these storms have happened, and a lot of those have been people inside of vehicles overtaken by quick-moving floodwaters. And so officials are saying it has been a long haul, they are tired, but do not become complacent because the risks are still out there. And again, there is still more rain in the forecast, potential for more storms next week. They may get a bit of a break after that, but there are some communities that will see the water that's falling this weekend take a few days to get to them, so that flooding risk will remain there for some time. And then, of course, there is all the cleanup that's going to happen. Susana da Silva, CBC News, near Sacramento, California.
Iran has sparked international anger with its latest execution, a British Iranian citizen convicted of espionage. Hours after the announcement, the UK's foreign minister has recalled the British ambassador to Iran. And as Jamie Strachan tells us, London's considering more action.
Iranian state media announced early today that Iranian British national Ali Reza Akbari had been executed by hanging.
When I found out earlier this morning from the officials in Tehran that this had taken place, of course, I was filled with a revulsion that I think any reasonable person would have.
The exact timing of the execution is unknown. The British government responded with a number of diplomatic measures and promised more to come.
We are watching closely what they do. We will respond robustly to any actions that they take.
Akbari is a former top Iranian defense official and has not been seen publicly since his arrest in 2019 for allegedly being a spy for Britain's MI6 intelligence agency. No details of his trial were ever made public.
We are greatly disturbed by the reports that Mr. Akbari was drugged, tortured while in custody, interrogated for thousands of hours, and forced to make false concessions.
His family also rejected allegations that Akbari was a spy.
The character that I knew, the person that was devoted to the country and the regime itself, would not contemplate to do anything that would jeopardize or harm either the regime nor the population.
Akbari's execution comes as the Iranian regime continues to deal with nationwide unrest after 22-year-old Mahsa Amini died in custody after allegedly violating strict rules related to wearing a hijab. Iran has blamed foreign countries for fueling the protests. Experts say Akbari's execution sends a message to protesters and the world.
It tells us very directly that the Islamic Republic has no intention of reform or meeting protesters' demands. It tells us that a purge of the political establishment is well underway, and there is a hardline conservative monopoly of power.
Human rights groups say at least 520 protesters have been killed and thousands more arrested since the unrest began last fall. Jamie Strachan, CBC News, Toronto.
China now says 60,000 people have died of COVID-19 since December 8th. It's a staggering reversal. Each day over that period, reported deaths never exceeded 5. The World Health Organization had already expressed its doubts over China's reporting. The deaths coincided with China's dismantling of its rigid COVID restrictions. Although the WHO believes the current wave was already underway, China today says that wave appears to have peaked but remains high. The man who was Brazil's justice minister under Jair Bolsonaro is under arrest in connection with last weekend's rioting at government buildings. Protesters stormed the Congress building, the presidential residence, and the Supreme Court. The minister, Anderson Torres, was in charge of security. It's unclear what the charges are, but the arrest order cited, quote, omission and connivance. That arrest order was issued Tuesday. Torres, who was in Florida, said he would turn himself in. And it is looking like party time at Whistler's Olympic Plaza on a beautiful, mild night. I'll have your full forecast after the break, and there's going to be some rain on the way. Let's take a look at that forecast now, shall we? It's a pretty mild night. Temperatures showing that. You can see it's 5 degrees at Pitt Meadows. Vancouver Airport showing 6 degrees right now. In the valley, even warmer, 7 degrees. And actually interesting to see across the border sitting at 8 degrees. Around this time of year for us here on the South Coast, Vancouver Airport average low would be around the freezing mark, so significantly warmer. Temperatures, of course, will drop as we head in through the night. Here's your forecast across the province. In Dease Lake, looking at a -8, you might see a risk of some flurries. Prince George, rain snow mix looking at 1 degree. Rain snow mix as well for Williams Lake, looking at 3 degrees. Along the coast, just some rainfall there, of course. The temperature is significantly warmer. 9 degrees in Victoria, looking at a 6 tomorrow in Kelowna. And Cranbrook, rain snow mix looking at 2 degrees. And there's your forecast here in Metro Vancouver for the next 5 days. Tomorrow, an afternoon high of 10 degrees, significantly warmer than it should be around this time of year. Rainfall for the rest of the week, but mostly just showers for tomorrow. And that does it for us. That's your late news for this Saturday. Thank you for watching. For news at any hour, of course, you can go to our website, cbc.ca/BC. I will see you back here tomorrow. Have a good night.